Hi, I'm Jennifer from Shabby Fabrics, and today I have an extra special tutorial to share with you how to make the coolest pillowcase ever. A friend of mine showed me this technique and I absolutely love it. The coolest part is you don't see any seams. Let's look at the pillow behind me. Just 3 fabrics and it takes almost no fabric, and you have the neatest gift. Now I know we all love to make quilts, but wouldn't that be great to give not only a quilt, but also a coordinating pillowcase? Such a special gift and so easy. So I wanted to show you how we make this amazing pillow. Now I did not come up with this technique. I don't know where it actually has come from, but it's been around for years apparently, but I only learned about it just a couple days ago. And I'm like, I have to share this with you. So 3 fabrics. You want to get an inspiration piece. And for me on the pillow back here, of course, I love pink. So I grabbed my cute little pink rose print and I had a nice little accent. That's kind of your zinger. We call that the trim piece, and then the cuff. So we'll refer to these as the main fabric or the body of the pillow. You'll have your trim piece, and then this will be referred to as the cuff. So I did one in kind of shabby chic colors, and now today let's do one in some Christmassy colors, because that's another great gift. And what child wouldn't love to have a special pillowcase that they got from their grandmother or a friend or an aunt? So, and not just kids, everybody loves custom-made pillowcases. So let's get started. Inspiration piece for me was this cute little gingerbread piece, and then I wanted to pull out some of the other colors that were in there, and of course these are all in there, so that makes a great combination. Now I want you to remember these 3 numbers: 3, 9, 27. 3 times 9 is 27. So what does that mean? Of the main fabric, your inspiration piece, you'll cut 27 inches times the width of the fabric. And I've cut those ahead of time so we could save some time, so you didn't have to watch me cut fabric. Then for your accent piece, that's this little piece here, we'll be cutting a 3-inch strip all the way across the width of the fabric. And then for the cuff, you'll be cutting the 9-inch piece. So 3, 9, 27. So now that we've got those selected and cut, here's how you lay this out. We will lay the main fabric out first, and I'm lining that up with one of the lines on my ruler, and everything will be laid on top of that. Okay. And you want to keep the fold on the left and your selvages on the right. You can't mix and match that. So make sure that your folds are all on this side and your selvages are over on this side. What we're doing right now is we'll lay each fabric out, and then we need to trim so that everything is the same width. Now you would think that fabric manufacturers would have one standard of width. They don't. As you can see right here, this fabric is longer than this fabric, and this one's a little bit longer. That's just because the base cloth that all fabric is printed on does vary. So step 1, after you cut all your fabrics out, is lay them on top of each other and then cut everything to be the same. We don't want to cut off too much fabric, or our pillowcase will be a little bit too snug, but we want to make sure they're all the same length, or the project won't work. So looks like that's about right. And I'm going to visualize. If you've got the 24-inch ruler like I do, your fabric will extend just a little bit beyond that. So what I do is I line it up as well as I can here. I get a visual look at that same mark on my mat, and I start my cut, and then without shifting the fabric, I move up, grab that line, and continue my cut. Now that that step is done, the cuff and the main portion can be put aside, and for the accent piece, we'll need to go over to the iron, and we will press this in half with the wrong sides together. So I will go do that step now, and then we can go going on putting our pillow together. Now that we have the accent piece pressed in half, now we begin to lay out the 3 pieces and create this amazing pillow. So we start with the actual cuff, and that will be right side up. And I'm lining it up along one of the horizontal lines on my mat. This does take quite a bit of space. If you don't have a mat, and most people wouldn't have a mat this big in their home or their sewing room, you don't have to line this up on a mat. You could line this up on a table. The main thing will be that the top edge of all 3 pieces meets exactly the same. Now I might, because this piece is bigger, might just fold the bottom up a little bit so I can see it a little more readily. I'm short, so I don't have the longest of arms. Now I'm bringing those edges right together. Now you can see why it was important that everything is the same length. These will be stacked right on top of each other. Now my accent piece, the raw edges will go away from me, so all the raw edges are together. Now this is one of the many cool parts. Okay. With the main fabric, I began to roll it up. Try not to disturb that top row because we want everything to stay together. So I will roll it until it's about at my accent piece. I'm going to bring this whole thing a little closer to me so I can see better. Now the cuff will come up and over and meet all of the other raw edges, and we will begin to pin. And when you're pinning, you want all 3 fabrics, all of those raw edges need to be together. So you want to take your time on this. Don't rush this, because if you have one of the fabrics dipped down below, it won't be caught in this transition right here the way that it needs to be. So don't rush this step. You have to check, is everything lined up, and take your time. So I will continue pinning, and then when I have that all pinned, we'll come back together and we'll take that to the sewing machine and we'll sew that seam all the way down the long side. Now that the 3 pieces are pinned together, we'll take that to the sewing machine and sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I like to secure that edge really, really well, because you will be pulling all the fabric out through this tube. So I do like to secure the stitch at the very end on both sides of the tube. So we'll sew all the way to the end, and then at the very end of this, the magic will happen. I can't wait to show you. Now that the tube has been sewn, we'll just clip in, trim off those threads. These scissors, by the way, are one of our newest items. They're called Snip and Style. They are so cute, little bling on the handle, and we've got pink and purple. I think we've got aqua blue, clear, a green, beautiful, fun. They're just cute little scissors to snip threads like I just did. Certainly not for cutting out, fabric in any kind of quantity. It's just for snipping threads, but just fun to add to your sewing tools. Now this is my favorite part. You literally reach inside either end. You could go through either end, and you will begin to pull out the main body of the pillow, and it will reveal itself here shortly. It's like a surprise. It reminds me of when I was a kid and I would fold up the paper and make snowflakes, and you really didn't know what you were going to get until you unfolded it. This is kind of like that, maybe a little less mysterious, but nonetheless, it's exciting to see how this works. And I'll be honest with you, whoever came out with this is a genius. And so there is our pillow so far. And let me show you the coolest part. There are no seams. It's kind of like, look, Mom, no hands. Look, Mom, no seams. I mean, that's the most amazing part, is it's all encased inside. So we've got the main body, our accent, and then our cuff. So now we'll go over to the ironing board, and I just want to press everything out, and then we'll go to the next step. Now that everything's pressed, now we need to enclose the pillow. You have two choices here. I prefer French seams because the seams are hidden. Again, like this, where everything's tucked inside. Let me show you the quick method. If you don't want to do French seams, or let's say you have a serger. If you have a serger, you might want to just bring right sides together, like this. And you would simply sew around here, turn your pillow right side out. I don't have a serger, and I don't want those raw edges to fray because pillowcases get washed over and over again. So I will teach you today the French seams. So in that case, now we go wrong sides together, like this. And of course, it's very important that the cuff and the trim meet exactly. So I pin. I know some people don't like pinning, but sometimes you should. And this is one of those times, because you do want that intersection to come together just as perfectly as you can. So I will pin all the way around my pillow. And I'm sure you don't need to watch me pin. I just come in like you're making a quilt, just the same way. So I'll get this all pinned, and then we'll come back and we'll sew all the way around, and then I'll show you how to make the French seam after that. So now that my pillowcase has been pinned, I will take this back to the sewing machine, and as we did before, sew a 1/4 inch all the way around here and down this side. Of course, there's no reason to sew on this side because that's the fold. So let's go do that now. And I always secure my stitches, when I sew really anything, but especially something like this that'll again be turned right side out and wrong side out, and keep flipping it. So let me get started sewing that. So once I get that sewn all the way around those two sides, we'll come back and we'll go to the next step. Now that I've sewn around the two sides, I will come back with my rotary cutter and my ruler, and I want to trim the 1/4 inch seam that I just sewn down to about 1/8 of an inch. That will help make the French seam actually possible, which is coming up in the next step. So you might be wondering, why didn't you just have me sew 1/8 of an inch? It's hard to sew 1/8 of an inch. There is no mark on your machine. So, and you're used to sewing a 1/4 inch because you're a quilter, probably. And that's a very standard measurement. So now we'll go in and we're going to trim, and it doesn't have to be exact 1/8 of an inch. Just trim off some of that bulk to make the French seam work. Another great recipient of a pillowcase like this may be a shelter in your own community. There may be a shelter for women and children, and you know, when someone's hurting emotionally, just the slightest gesture can mean the difference between that person having another lousy day and having hope that the future can be better. And so please don't ever underestimate the power of when you give a gift. Something as simple as a pillowcase can make a difference in someone's life. And so there are so many opportunities to volunteer and to give that really do make a difference for people. So now that we've trimmed down to our 1/8 of an inch, we will go back and turn our pillow, now wrong side out. French seams take this is the extra step that a French seam is, because now what we'll do is actually go where we there's our seam. Can you see that right there? That we will you have to kind of work your way out. You have to kind of work it out with your fingers, and then I pin again. I'm a pinner when it comes to projects like this. I don't pin as much in quilting, especially when I'm just piecing, but when I need something to come together just right, take the time to do the pinning. So we'll work this out, just when I kind of just roll it. And then when I feel like I have that out, and I can also go inside and kind of push it out with my fingers, I will pin it. So I will do that all the way around. Again, just the 2 sides where the seams are. Then we'll come back, so a 1/4 inch again, along where our pin line is, turn the pillow right side out, and we'll be done. So I will be back with you momentarily, and I'll get everything pinned, and we'll take it to the sewing machine one more time. Now that my pillowcase is pinned around the 2 sides, we'll come back to the sewing machine one last time and sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then our pillow will be ready to be turned right side out. So I'll finish sewing around the 2 sides, and then I'll be back to show you what the finished pillowcase looks like. Now that I've sewn my last seam along the 2 sides, I get to turn the pillow to the right side and see what we have. This is so exciting. And there it is. Oh my gosh. So cute. So cute. Who doesn't love gingerbread cookies and hot cocoa and all these cute little things that are on this fabric? There you have it. And you can get in those little corners. Sometimes if I have a little corner that's resistant to come out, I'll just get a little pin and maybe pull it out. And there's a lot of tools on the market that have little points that you can get in the corners and kind of poke those out. So there you have it. So simple, and didn't take very much fabric at all. So just to recap, 27 inches for your main fabric, that's the body of your pillow. For your cuff, you'll be using a 9-inch piece, and for your accent, 3 times 9 is 27. It's very easy to remember. Now, I know that there'll be many ladies and gentlemen that might even want to make a pillowcase for someone special. And so for that reason, we'll be putting together some kits. And the kits will be constantly changing. so that you have a nice variety of kits to choose from on the website. Inside the kits, there will be no instructions. You will need to come and watch this video in order to be able to assemble the fabrics that are in your kit. So I hope you enjoyed watching this tutorial on making this amazing pillow that has all of the seams hidden, and I hope that you'll subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can enjoy more free tutorials from Shabby Fabrics.